Hey everyone, happy Tuesday. Jo here at SportsGrid. It's time for Pocket with Jo. We have an absolute loaded slate today, so we are kicking the show off a little bit early, and I want to remind you guys to join me on Game Time Decisions today at 7:25 Eastern to go over the later slate, as well as check out the SportsGrid app. My favorite bet in the later games is up on there. So you got to check it out to get it. If you're looking for the links to where to download the SportsGrid app, it will be above or below this video. But you guys, thanks so much for jumping in here. Jo, congratulations to your crack. And we got them beautiful plus money last night. And Matt, let's make some money today. It's a good opportunity to jump in on a lot of these games. I am liking some underdogs, some favorites. The Habs are a favorite today. I do like them in that spot. But we're going to start off with the Washington Capitals. Who was in here yesterday? Hats off to whoever took the reverse puck line on the Washington Capitals. I didn't think they were going to be able to do it versus the Ottawa Senators. Now, we're going to talk about the Senators later. I think the Senators are in a bounce back situation tonight. But looking at the Washington Capitals and how they played last night, I tip my hat to whoever took them on that reverse puck line because that was a great call by you. I expected more out of the Sens. I think that was the worst game we've seen out of the Sens all season, and that's why I'm looking for the bounce back. But looking at Washington in this case tonight, taking on the Detroit Red Wings, rolling with momentum, I think is quite a possibility in this one. I love the value we're getting on them, and I'm just going to pull up the value over on FanDuel. So if you're watching, that's where all the lines come from. You can take the Washington Capitals, and I keep wanting to say Commanders. Why is football already on my mind? I guess because the Combine's coming up, but the Washington Capitals here at plus 138. We do have the Detroit Red Wings as the favorite at home at minus 166 and total of 6.5. Now that 6.5 is juiced to the under at minus 130. It's a hard one to take this one to the under. With what we've seen out of the Red Wings here, this team is so strong offensively, but then we look at the goalie matchup, and I understand why the books have juiced this one to the under. Charlie Lindgren is expected in net for the Washington Capitals here tonight. He's got a 2.64 goals against average and a 914 save percentage. When we look at Alex Leon, he has been so phenomenally hot as of late. It's going to be hard for Washington to score on him. He's got a 2.68 goals against average and a 916 save percentage. So I do think we're going to see defenses show up in this one. I think it's a nice opportunity to grab Washington at that plus money. Plus 138 is the current line. It was plus 142 earlier in the day. You look at Washington, they won that last one big last night versus the Senators, like we talked about. So they covered that reverse puck line. Again, if that was you, let me give you a shout out. But they won it 6-3. They're now 4-0-1 in their last 5 games. This team is rolling right now. Now, the second night of back-to-back isn't a bad thing for the Washington Capitals. While they're an older team, they somehow normally roll with momentum, and they dominated the matchup versus the Red Wings, winning 7 of the last 10. Excuse my phone. Let me just turn the volume off on that because I'm sure without my volume off, it's going to do that all day long with notifications on here. So, okay, that is now turned off. I'm going to look at the first period as well, over 1.5 in this one. I think we can see a fast start out of these teams and then maybe some lockdown there. So I wouldn't be shocked if both teams scored in the first period or one of these teams scored 2 goals. So the over 1.5 is minus 122. I can see it then locking down in this game, staying under that total. So I'm going to go with the Washington Capitals. Jo seeing the Capitals at plus 122 out there. I do think some of these dogs are absolutely barking on the ice tonight. Let's look at the next one, the Buffalo Sabres taking on the Florida Panthers. This is a hard one to get behind the dog here. The Sabres rolling into this one at plus 198. Now you're getting more and more value on the Sabres. They were plus 180 earlier in the day. The Florida Panthers minus 245, almost a $3 favorite. It's a lot of juice to lay on this team. If you like them on the puck line, laying 1.5 goals, that's coming in at plus 104. This total is 6.5. Again, juice to that under. We're playing minus 130 to the under. And again, there's a huge reason why. We look at the Florida Panthers and their ability to lock down their opponents. They're not allowing these goals to come in. I don't remember the last time they've allowed 3 goals in a game. Bobrovsky will be in net for them. I'm going to take the Buffalo Sabres team total to the under. It's under 2.5, and you are laying juice at minus 128. This team has won their last 3 games, so they're playing above what I expected out of them. Sunday, they beat the Carolina Hurricanes at home in a 3-2 win. in a shootout. We look at the Florida Panthers and their defense. This defense allowing 2.4 goals per game on average and 27.6 shots on net. Bobrovsky phenomenally strong with a 2.36 goals against average and a 916 save percentage. Now, the Florida Panthers, the last time these teams played to get that shutout win, it was a 4-0 shutout win. And that was just on the February 15th. So it's the 27th today. So not long ago. So I know a lot of people like to look for the bounce back out of teams to be able to come out and beat other teams. And especially when you're looking at a divisional opponent here, the Florida Panthers second and the Buffalo Sabres sitting sixth. You would think they would really get up for this game, the Sabres. I just don't know if they have enough of momentum in this game, even though they've won their last three, to be able to beat a team like Florida. If they do, it's a 2-1 game and a fluke goal there on Bobrovsky, a couple of fluke goals. But I still do think the Florida Panthers are the right side. I just don't want to lay that puck line. It's too juicy. You can look at them in the first period. We know the Florida Panthers love to get up in that first period. But I do think the best bet is the Buffalo Sabres under 2.5. Let's look at the next game here. I'm going to look at your comments just really quick before we look at that next game. Kev, good to see you here today. Yeah, let's make some frickin' money, Mike. It's a good day to make some money. Wings are rolling Washington on back-to-back. Yeah, but you look at Washington on the back-to-back, they really haven't been bad on the back-to-back, and I agree. The Red Wings are a solid team, but you look at that game versus the Chicago Blackhawks, they needed to go to overtime. I know there was a retirement ceremony and Patrick Kane was back there. I just look at that one and I go, they should not have had to go to overtime versus the Chicago Blackhawks. So that's where I'm going. Let's get this money today, you guys. The Arizona Coyotes and the Montreal Canadiens face up at 7 o'clock Eastern too. The good thing about this game is one of these teams has to break their losing streaks. The Arizona Coyotes, I think, will be the team. They've lost their last 12 games. OT loss on Sunday versus the Winnipeg Jets. So they were staying competitive in that one. And we look here at the Montreal Canadiens. They've lost their last 5. They lost that last one to the Devils 4-3. Connor Ingram and Sam Montembeault are the expected goalies in this one. So current lines, the Arizona Coyotes are the favorite on the road at -113. Who likes to take the Coyotes on the road as a favorite? I don't, but I do think it's the right way to go. -106 here for the Montreal Canadiens. Total of 6.5. Now we're getting plus money to that over at +102 and -124 to the under. Out of these two opponents, I know we don't see a lot of goal scoring, but I do think, even though Connor Ingram's been strong in some of these games, that we will see both of these teams find the back of the net. Sam Montembeault just hasn't looked like himself. And if it ends up being not Sam Montembeault, because these are expected, and let me just see if we got any confirmations on, yeah, it is Sam Montembeault and Connor Ingram. FanDuel has the odds up for both of them. I can't trust either goalie at the moment. And I do think because these offenses have been really limited in a lot of these games. And while the last game went only 3-2 between them back in November, I do think this one goes over. So I think this is one where you just player prop the game instead of taking a side. And I think that is a stronger way to go. We know Nick Suzuki has really stepped up since Monahan has gone to the Winnipeg Jets. So looking at Suzuki here, he's +165 for the anytime goal. Cole Caulfield is a normal go-to for me for the Montreal Canadiens. He's coming in at +210. And the value with the Arizona Coyotes is Logan Cooley at +310. We know he can be clinched in these situations. Now, Clayton Keller is on IR. He's out with an upper body injury. So it does kind of point you more towards the Montreal Canadiens with the leading goal scorer for the Arizona Coyotes out. So we'll see. You sometimes get that next man up kind of mentality with these teams. None of the Coyotes have lost one of their players because of a Instagram reel video story he posted. Excessive partying with white powder and stuff like that posted on his story. So I don't know what he was thinking there, but Montreal is off that road trip. So let's get this one. You guys, yeah, you're staying off it. It is absolutely a stink fest out there between these two teams. I don't blame you for not taking it. Buffalo covers the puck line. Edmonton, big win, revenge for Buffalo. Buffalo shall get the puck line. You won't play the under. Yeah, I understand if you don't want to play the under. The Buffalo Sabres are a team that can score out there. I love the Florida Panthers defense, and I really do think this defense is able to lock down. Let's look at the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, the Lightning coming in here at -138 and +115 for the Philadelphia Flyers. Anyone who watched the Flyers last game versus the Penguins out there will know that this team had absolute pond hockey with no goaltending, no defense in their last game. So it's going to be a hard one here versus the Lightning. Lightning are so phenomenally strong. Only -138 here for the Lightning on the road is kind of a scary one for me. This line, I thought they would be bigger favorites, and we know that that has worked sometimes and has bit us sometimes when we played against a team. We played with the Ottawa Senators a couple nights ago. I'm trying to think who they played because the line didn't look right. We played the Rangers on the puck line, and their line didn't look right, but we took a chance on it. So it just depends which way you want to go with this one. The total is in this one, 6.5 +104 to the over, -128 to the under. If you want to lay the puck line with the Lightning here, laying the 1.5 is +172. If you want to grab it with the Flyers, you're getting no value. It's like $2. So looking at this one, the Tampa Bay Lightning, in my opinion, are the better team. I do think they can come out and get a dominating win. I love what we've seen out of a lot of these players out there. And while this team is older and people give them a lot of strife, I do think offensively and defensively, they should own this matchup. Now, when we look at the Flyers, their kill is really strong, but they haven't been proving it as of late to me. They lost that last one to the Penguins. It was a 7-6 game. It was disgusting out there on Sunday. No defense was played. I do think they try to tighten up in this one. The Flyers, only 2 wins versus the Tampa Bay Lightning on the road when they're on the road. I don't know. I don't trust this team, you guys. They're back home. Uh, Yeah, they're back. This team is just back and forth, home and road. It's the Flyers, you guys. I can't get behind them. The price is too good though here for the Lightning, so it kind of scares me. I think that first period goes over 1.5. That's coming in at -138. I think Kucherov for the anytime goal has so much value at +115. Stamkos you could look at for the anytime goal as well. You're getting more value at +180. If you want to go to Braden Point, he's +150. And if you want the best value for a guy that I really do think could get on the scoreboard, it is Cirelli. Here's Cirelli coming in at +310. So that's a long shot there. But this team is just completely balanced out there on the ice. And I do think they should have a nice win here. They're sitting 5th in the Atlantic. They won their last 2 games. They got the win over the Devils on Sunday, 4-1. And I would expect a very similar game in this one. This is game 3 on the road. They're home on Thursday versus the Sabres. So that's where I'm going. I could see this one 4-1, or we do see a couple more goals, 5-3. So I would lean for this one more so over that total if you're looking to back the total. But I think you just back that first period over 1.5 and the Tampa Bay Lightning on the puck line. Okay. Yeah, the Bruins have been absolutely struggling out there with all the overtime games. It's so frustrating for people backing the Bruins, and they're getting tired, that's for sure. Okay, the Vegas Golden Knights and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, this is a rematch. We did just see these teams play back on the 22nd. So, what's that, 5 days ago? It's the 27th today in Vegas. And we saw Toronto be able to get that nice win, 7-3. Now, we did see Jack Eichel out on the ice this morning. He was wearing the red non-contact jersey out there on the ice, but I do believe that he's playing tonight. Now, I can't find any props for Jack Eichel here, so maybe he's not, but I do think we will see him. We know Mark Stone is out of the lineup. It was lacerated spleen, from what I have heard. It's actually interesting that they told us exactly what it is, because in hockey, you normally don't find out a lot what is actually going on with these players. You just hear upper or lower body. Now, the Vegas Golden Knights, it's hard to look past them. They're coming in at +134 on the money line, -162 here for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Total of 6.5. That 6.5 is juiced to the under at -122, and you're getting a slight bit of plus money to the over. All the value is on Vegas in this one for me. I think it's worth a little bit of money on them straight up on that money line. I also like their team total over 2.5. The Leafs go up and down, and they play up and down to their competition. With the Leafs coming in off a road trip, it was a 4-game West Coast road trip. It's a hard situation to return home. Now, Samsonov, while he has been playing strong, I don't completely trust him. And looking at the Vegas Golden Knights, we know this team can put up the goals. They're averaging that 3.14 goals per game, 30.9 shots on net. Now, Samsonov coming in with a 3.18 goals against average and an 883 save percentage. So I do think that over 2.5, that number just looks too light for the Vegas Golden Knights. This one could stay under the total of 6.5 and be a 3-2 win for Vegas in overtime. And then we get the over 2.5, we get Vegas, and we get the under 6.5. So that is where I'm leaning with this game. I think this is going to be a true competitive defensive battle out there. I know there was 10 goals in the last game with Toronto winning that 7-3. I can't see these two teams playing that way again. Toronto needs to lock down on that defensive side. Now they've won their last 7. They were able to beat the Avs in the last game out 4-3. But like I said, this is a first game home off a very successful road trip. They won every game of that 4 games on the West Coast, but I do think they struggle in this one. Aiden Hill will be in goal for the Vegas Golden Knights tonight, and he has been phenomenally strong. He's got a 2.27 goals against average and a 927 save percentage. And I know there's injuries here with Vegas, but I do like the opportunity with that plus money. You guys know I love the plus money, that's for sure. Let's look at the next game, the Carolina Hurricanes and the Minnesota Wild, and I'm going for plus money again. And this is kind of a scary situation because when I look at the Carolina Hurricanes and the Minnesota Wild, which team do I trust the most and which team do I have more respect for, especially on the defensive side of the puck? And it is the Carolina Hurricanes, but at this line, I can't get behind Carolina at minus 142 here on the road. We're getting the Minnesota Wild at plus 118 at home. And I do think this team has every ability of getting the win. That total is 6.5 at minus 132 to the under. I'm going to lay the juice to the under in this one. This is going to be a defensive battle, which then it makes it harder for me to grab the Wild because I do think the defense is so much stronger of the Canes. But I think they can pull off this win, and it's because of goaltending. I'm looking at Gustafson here. I'm going to take his save shots on goal. That's coming in at 28.5, and I'm going to take it to the over at minus 110. He's had 2 career starts versus the Carolina Hurricanes, and in those 2 starts, he's got a 1.49 goals against average and a 952 save percentage. So he's been so hot in those 2 games versus Carolina, and I'm expecting the same out of him. No goalie confirmation yet for the Canes. Krochikov is expected, and he's very solid as well. And we know the defense of the Canes is phenomenally strong, locking down opponents, holding them to only 25.4 shots on goal per game. This one is going to be a battle, and this one is a game that I could see being 1-1 going into overtime. Now, the value on this one to go to overtime, and let me just pull that up, you guys, because I haven't bet this yet, but the more and more I talk about this, I really do think this one has every ability in a super low scoring game to go to OT here. And I do think the Wild still could win it in overtime. It's plus 340 for this game to go to overtime, and I like it. Got the number 2 team in the Metro here in the Canes and the number 6 in the Central. They are sitting second for the wild card spot. So this team is fighting, and this is the first game home. And I know I love to fade teams on the first game home off of a road trip. They went 2-1 on the road trip. It was a 3-game road trip. They're back out on the road on Thursday versus the Preds, and then the Blues on Saturday, and Sunday back home versus the Sharks. I could see that Sunday being a letdown spot for this Wild team, but I'm not fading them in this one. I do think they can win a low-scoring battle. Now, if you want to just take the under 5.5 and get that at plus 114, I don't blame you. I do think the under is a really solid way to go. So plus 114 to the under 5.5, but then you're getting the under 6.5 at minus 132. I think both of those have every opportunity to hit. Now, when I'm looking at unders, I really don't like to play any player props here, but I feel like I have to mention them. Sebastian Aho has been phenomenally strong for the Carolina Hurricanes. He's got 61 points, 22 goals, and 39 assists in 59 games. And we have Seth Jarvis here, 46 points, 18 goals, and 28 assists. So both of those players there for the Carolina Hurricanes. Kaprizov here for the Minnesota Wild. You could take him for 2+ points tonight. It's asking a lot. You can't take him for 1 point because the books have it way too juiced. If you want to take him for the 1 or more points, that's coming in like minus 180, minus 190. You could parlay that I do think he gets at least 1 point on the board, but like I said, I could see this being a 1-1 game. So you're hoping that he gets the assist or the goal out there. And it's asking a lot when you have so many players out there. But he's had one or more goals in his last 8 consecutive games, and he had 3 points, sorry, one or more points in his last 3 consecutive games. I was gonna say, I didn't think he did that. And then he had 3 points in that last game against Seattle. So he was able to get 2 goals and 1 assist. So looking at him to come out nice and strong, I do think is a strong way to take this game. But like I said, I think it's a low scoring one. So I'm still Kaprizov here for 2 plus points is plus 196. You guys know I love that plus money, and it's so hard for me to turn away from now. Yeah, the line is coming down for sure, Kev, on it, from plus 120 to plus 118. Let's look at the Ottawa Senators. Now, I mentioned at the start of the show, I do think they're off one of their worst games of the whole season. I can't remember another game where they were absolutely picked apart like they were versus Washington last night. Now, they rolled into Washington as the favorite, and man, they sure disappointed. We had so many goals in that first period. It was mind blowing. I wish I had the over in that game. But the Ottawa Senators now facing the Nashville Predators. Now, they are rolling in as a dog at plus 122 and minus 146 here for the Nashville Predators at home. Total of 6.5. You're going to lay juice at minus 115 to the over, a little bit of juice at minus 105 to the under. Second night of a back-to-back for the Ottawa Senators here. That's a strike. We know that. We look at the Nashville Predators. They are home off a 5-game road trip that was completely successful. Won all 5 games on the road. This team has struggled to have success at home this season. They are sitting below 500 at home, sitting 14 and 15 at home on the season. And I do think the bounce back is absolutely needed here for the Ottawa Senators. We know this team before they lost this game was having success out there on the road. Now, Corpusalo is expected in net tonight. He's got a 3.39 goals against average and an 887 save percentage. He played 40 minutes last night after taking over for Anton Forsberg, who got lit up in that first period. So this is worrisome. And because of that, I would lean for this one to go to the over because I do think Corpusalo comes out here and allows the Predators to score. You can look at a couple things in this one. Saros, his last 3 games, he's been phenomenally hot. He's got a 1.67 goals against average and a 944 save percentage. So if you don't believe the Senators can have that bounce back tonight, you could look at the Nashville Predators team total. The over 3.5 for the team total for the Nashville Predators is minus 108. And I do think because of what we've seen out of this team offensively, they've been scoring these goals. They've had 4 or more goals in their last, I believe, 5 games out there on the ice. Yeah, last 5 games in a row. They've had 4 or more goals. Now, they won that last game versus the Anaheim Ducks on Sunday. They had 4 goals in that, and they allowed those 2. I don't hate it. I'm concerned about the lack of success they've had at home. And I do think Saros is in for a little bit of regression because that 2.95 goals against average, when we look at him in that last 3, like I said, a 1.67 regression, I think will set in this game at home. The Senators, you can look at straight up on the money line for a bounce back. I'm going to put some money there. You could also look at their team total over 2.5 if you do believe Saros is going to show that regression. So I don't hate the team total over 2.5 either. I think it's another solid way to go. And I just have to see what the value is on that again because I am drawing a blank. So let me just pull that up for you guys. Highest scoring period. We're not going to touch that. Over 2.5, and the value's gone. It's minus 168 now on the Ottawa Senators over 2.5. So if you're leaning that way, I would just look at the team or the full game to that over 6.5, just because Corpusalo here played 40 minutes last night. It's going to be a hard one. I do think Saros lets in a couple goals, but if you don't think Saros lets in a couple, look at the Preds team total over 3.5. Jake Sanderson said a really funny quote last night, defensive player here for the Ottawa Senators. I don't believe they can all of a sudden turn around their defense after what we saw versus the Caps last night, but they did lock down in that third period. There was no goals in the third period of that game that ended in 9 goals. All the goals came in the first and the second. So if you think Jake Sanderson is going to be hugely impactful in tonight's game, you could maybe look at his block shots on Goal Market because this is what he said last night. He said, we've been playing some really good hockey as of late. One loss tonight doesn't define that. So we have to be goldfish. I've never heard that remark before. Be goldfish, forget about it, and do a quick turnaround. So he's looking to be a goldfish tonight. I don't know. Do goldfish forget stuff that fast? Never heard that before. So Jake Sanderson, I would play on him maybe. Let's just see what he's coming in for. Now we don't have block shot market yet on FanDuel, but I would look at his block shots over that 2.5 if you're getting it on your book. If you think he can come out and be that offensive defenseman where I can't even remember how many goals he's got on the season. The books are saying plus 750 for Jake Sanderson to get a goal. It'd be kind of interesting look there for him to come out nice and strong. To be a goldfish tonight and forget about what happened last night. Just forget about it, you guys. So let's look at the St. Louis Blues. They are taking on the Winnipeg Jets. They're plus 150 here on the money line and minus 182 for the Winnipeg Jets. The total is 5.5, just to that over, which is interesting to me. Minus 130 to the over and plus 106 to the under. If this game goes under, in my opinion, or over, in my opinion, it's because the Winnipeg Jets put up 4 goals on the board. This is the first night of a back-to-back for the St. Louis Blues. Hard schedule. They have the Oilers on deck tomorrow. Now, their turnovers in their last game versus the Red Wings really cost them that game. They turned the puck over so many times in that first period. They lost to the Red Wings on Saturday, 6-1. Joe Hofer is expected in goal, and he has been decent in net. Him and Binghamton have been sharing the responsibilities in St. Louis. Boussois is in goal tonight and not Connor Hellebuck for the Winnipeg Jets, but that is not a huge fall off. It's kind of like Allmark and Swayman in Boston, and I know they're not at the level of Allmark and Swayman, so don't come at me, but I do think this tandem is phenomenally strong, and you don't see that huge letdown here when Boussois jumps in net. So he's got a 2.28 goals against average and a 9.20 save percentage. Now, they've won their last 3, the Winnipeg Jets. Their last game, though, overtime win versus the Arizona Coyotes, 3-2. They've also won 6 of their last 7, but they had to go to overtime versus the Coyotes. I don't love that fact. They're sitting second in the Central. The St. Louis Blues are sitting 5th in the Central here. Now, they've won the last 2 meetings versus the St. Louis Blues, including back in November when they got that big 5-2 win, and 8 of the last 10. So they have dominated this matchup, and I really do think we could see them continue to roll strong in this one. But looking at that value again, Winnipeg at minus 182. You can't get behind them on the money line. And because I do think this is a lower scoring game, the St. Louis Blues don't have value on that puck line at plus 1.5 at minus 166. But that's where I would go because I do think it would be a tighter game. One thing I found that I really do like is the team total here for the St. Louis Blues. The under 2.5 for their team totals coming in at minus 116. Winnipeg has absolutely limited the St. Louis Blues to 2 or less goals in 5 of their last 6 matchups. So Winnipeg is used to limiting the Blues and holding them under that total of 2.5 and at minus 116. I think it's worth a bite. It's not my favorite game of the day, you guys. The Blues have had a couple days rest, coming in off a couple days rest. They're 4 and 9 in their last 13, playing on 2 days rest. So it's not a strong suit for them, that rest. But again, not my favorite game. You like Carolina's team total under 3.5. Yeah, Carolina. I don't mind Carolina's team total under 3.5 versus the Minnesota Wild in that one with Gustafsson, how strong he's been playing. I think it's a really solid look looking at that team total. Let me know the juice you're getting on that because that's something I actually didn't consider, but I do think it is a nice way to go with that game. We're going to move on to the LA Kings. The LA Kings off that loss last night to Edmonton. Now, if you sat here with me yesterday on a Pocket with Joe, I told you I thought the Kings first period, it killed me that Edmonton tied it up with 23 seconds left. We almost got the Kings first period. And then the game plan was if you thought Edmonton could come back and get the win after the first period to hit the Edmonton Oilers with the value. Now, at one point, Edmonton was plus 132 before they tied it up with the Kings. So hopefully some of you guys jumped on them because Edmonton was able to get that 4-2 win. So instead of laying the minus 160, minus 170, minus 180, I can't remember what they were going into that game, you were able to get them at that plus 132 mark, at worst plus 124. So hopefully some of you did that and live bet that game last night because Edmonton winning again, like I said, 4-2. Kings scoring first. So looking at tonight's matchup, the Kings now face Calgary. So they're doing the Alberta double-double. And Jacob Markstrom will be in net for Calgary tonight, and Cam Talbot here for the LA Kings. Now, the LA Kings, we know this team is all about defense. And while Calgary's been scoring at a nice rate on 5-on-5 hockey with Jacob Markstrom in net, I really do expect this team to focus on defense as well. And for both of these teams to lock down. Jacob Markstrom has been playing solid. He only allowed those 2 goals versus the Boston Bruins on 34 shots on net his last time out. He's got a 2.58 goals against average and a 914 save percentage. Now, Cam Talbot comes into this one. The last game versus the Columbus Blue Jackets, he saved 33 of 34 shots on net. He's got a 2.53 goals against average and a 913 save percentage. So I do think goaltending plays a huge factor in this one. And I also think these defenses really need to lock down on both of on each other. So we look at the kill here for Calgary, 5th best kill in the league at 82.8%. The kill here is phenomenal for the LA Kings at 86.2%. And while the Kings power play is strong, Calgary just needs to play a clean game. And then their kill should take care of it when they make those mistakes. Now, with the second night of the back-to-back, I'm really not worried about this one going over that total. I do think the under is the way to go. It is at 5.5, and I know that is scary. And I know we had the under last night versus Edmonton and the Kings. I didn't expect that many goals, and we went over that with the 6. But tonight, under 5.5 at plus 100 is where my money has to go. If you like Calgary, and I do think Calgary has every chance of getting this win, how they've been playing as of late, they're able to get the win over Boston when Boston did the second night of a back-to-back. And granted, Boston did win the night before, but I think Calgary has a chance of getting the upset win here in the Pacific. We know these teams are battling it out in the Pacific for those spots. Calgary's minus 126 and plus 105 for the LA Kings. And yes, I think there's so much more value on the Kings here, but I just can't get there. Kempe is expected out of the lineup tonight. Now, Kempe is a huge impactful offensive player for this team. So another thing I do like, while I think the under 5.5 is a really solid play at plus 112-ish, plus 106, whatever that's coming in at, I also think looking at the LA Kings team total under 2.5, they could win this in a 2-1 game. So, or Calgary could win it in a 3-2 game. And this under 2.5 could still hit. The under 2.5 is coming in at plus 108. This team's struggling to score in their last, how many games they had in February? 8, 9 games in February. They've only been averaging that 2.56 goals per game. And overall in the season, 3.05. So that number is dropping for the season record because of this month of February with their lack of scoring out there. And I do think this is another game where we will see that lack of scoring. Calgary has won 3 of the last 4 meetings versus the LA Kings at home. So another strong suit there. And like I said, they're playing solid 5-on-5 hockey. Markstrom can win this in a low-scoring battle out there for them. So that's where I'm going. And I know maybe I'm a little bit biased here with Calgary. Let's go Calgary and Nassim Kadri. Nassim Kadri, really solid player to look at for that anytime goal. He's been playing a solid for sure. And yeah, the LA Kings under that 2.5 is just the way I have to go. You're rolling with Calgary. Let's roll. You had Calgary to beat Edmonton. You have way more faith in my team than I do. I think when you're a fan of a team, you kind of pick them apart a little bit. So it does scare me that I'm really liking them tonight on that money line with the opportunity to get the win because I'm kind of biased against them. So I think that's why I'm kind of leaning more on the Kings team total and the under, but I do think Calgary gets it done. Let's talk about the Dallas Stars now taking on the Colorado Avalanche. Now, you guys know I don't like a lot of favorites, but this is a favorite I have to get behind. Colorado here at minus 140 at home. They better not let me down tonight. We've got the Dallas Stars coming in at plus 116, total 6.5. Minus 118 to the over, minus 104 to the under in this one tonight. I do think this one goes over that total. I think 4-3 style game. The last 4 meetings have gone over the total, and Colorado is so phenomenally strong at home that I do think they get the win. It's juicy at minus 140, so not my favorite bet of the night because I hate laying juice. But the second night of a back-to-back here for the Dallas Stars, they lost in OT last night to the New York Islanders. So lots of travel to go to Colorado in this one. Jake Ottinger expected in net, and Georgiev expected here for the Colorado Avalanche. So they've won the last 3 meetings. The last one in January. That one actually went to overtime. 5-4 win for Colorado in overtime. Could we see this one playing out the same way? We absolutely could, because this is a battle of the Central. We have the Dallas Stars first in the Central and the Avs sitting third. And I do think Dallas, rolling into that one versus the Islanders last night, was already in a look ahead versus the Avs tonight. This to me screams playoff hockey in that first period. I would think the first period stays under 1.5. And I know that's counterintuitive when I'm looking at the full game to go over, but I think we see these teams try to play defense in that first period. And as soon as that one goal comes, and hopefully it doesn't come fast, then the floodgates open. So I'm willing to take a small chance on the under 1.5 in the first period, but I tell you, if the floodgates open in that first 5 minutes, this game is going to fly over that total of 6.5. Nathan MacKinnon is on his 28 home point streak. So if you want to look at Nathan MacKinnon for the points tonight, you would have to look at him for 2 or more points to get any value, but it's Nathan MacKinnon. He's been absolutely phenomenal at home, and he's been rolling hot. So 22-6 at home for the Avs right now on the season. I like where we're going. Late on the show, Doug, we started early, so no worries that you're late. Big shout out to everyone for joining me. Thank you so much for being here. So if you're looking for the games before the 10 p.m. Eastern mark, if you're just joining, just go back, rewatch the video. It's we're trying to go over them as fast as possible. The Pittsburgh Penguins and the Vancouver Canucks, 10 o'clock Eastern matchup. Now, Vancouver off that impressive comeback win versus the Boston Bruins. I actually was so impressed with them. Well, my money was on them, so I needed them to get that comeback win. But if you took them when they were down 2-0 versus the Boston Bruins, the plus money you're getting on these teams to be able to come back is absolutely insane. I encourage you guys to really watch these games, watch these lines. If you do love watching a hockey game and you're sitting down watching it, you've already got a bet in a game, watching the live line and where it goes for the overreaction of the books, because these teams are able to come back. Now, at a point, I won't come back with a team is when they go down, 3-0, but at 2-0, I'm not afraid to jump back in on a team, especially if you have a really competitive matchup out there, and we've seen that puck lock. So watch for that, you guys. The Vancouver Canucks coming into this game tonight are -154 and +128 for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, this total is 6.5 at -130 to the under and +106 to the over. Vancouver, I think, has every opportunity of winning this one. I don't like the value you're getting on that money line at -154. Now, this line has actually dropped during the day. They were closer to a -165-ish favorite as of last night when I was looking at these lines. But I think the puck line here is the play. Looking at the puck line for the Vancouver Canucks, laying 1.5 is coming in at +150. I think they have every opportunity of winning this by 2 goals. On the puck line at home, they're 18-9 on that puck line at home this season. They're sitting first in the Pacific, and it's almost like this team doesn't get the respect. And I know a lot of you expecting the wheels to fall off the Vancouver Canucks, but I just don't see it happening. And no disrespect to the Pittsburgh Penguins here. I know this team is strong. We look at the Pittsburgh Penguins and they didn't make the playoffs last season. If they don't make the playoffs this season, which they have to go on a huge streak to be able to make the playoffs, because they're sitting 7 points behind the Flyers for the third place in the Metro and 7 points behind the Tampa Bay Lightning for the final wildcard spot. So that is a lot to ask of the Penguins. Is it possible? Yeah, it absolutely is possible. But if they don't make the playoffs again this season, this will be the first time they haven't made the playoff in consecutive seasons, like back-to-back seasons, since that long drought back in 2002 to 2006, where they went 4 seasons without making the playoffs. Other than that, since then, they haven't gone back-to-back years. So I do think we're going to get the best out of the Penguins. We know how strong Sidney Crosby is, and I expect him to come out guns a-blazing on this one. This is a 4-game Pacific road trip for the Penguins, kicking off this one tonight. They're off that absolute pond hockey, so I can't trust them in that game, in that situation, with how bad they played versus the Flyers. 7-6 win for them. Yes, they came back and got the win, but I didn't love what we saw out of them. I do think Crosby comes out strong, though. So if you're looking at Crosby for the anytime goal, that's coming in at +1 145. He has 12 goals and 10 assists in 22 games versus the Vancouver Canucks. So we have seen him have success out there. And when we're looking at Vancouver, I do think JT Miller comes out with a really strong game in this one. JT Miller versus the Boston Bruins in that last game. He was phenomenal. He had 3 assists versus the Boston Bruins. So you can take him today for the 1+ assists. That's coming in at minus 138. The anytime goals coming in at plus 165 for him as well. Now he had no goals in the last game versus the Boston Bruins, and he had 1 versus the Kraken and 1 versus the Avs and 3 versus the Wild. So he is a player that can score absolutely out there for the Vancouver Canucks. And I do think the value is coming in at minus 138 that's for the assist, the anytime goal at plus 165 on Tristan Jarry here today. But I do think Demko has a solid day out here for the Vancouver Canucks. I like his ability to be able to shut down a lot of these players for the Pittsburgh Penguins and get some really nice high danger saves out there. So the last time these teams played, it was back on the 11th. It was a 4-3 win for the Vancouver Canucks. Elias Pettersson was able to get that overtime winning goal to get the win. So it could be a tight one here, but I really do think this is one where Vancouver can win it on the puck line. Yeah, I know I'm rolling with Calgary to be able to get things done. That is for sure. Vince Dunn with that goal. Nice call on Vince Dunn with the goal yesterday. I'm proud of you guys. I love seeing you guys cashing and hitting the books nice and hard, especially with those goal scorers. You get so much value on them. Let's look at the New Jersey Devils and the San Jose Sharks. The Devils coming in here as a favorite at minus 255. The San Jose Sharks at minus 205 with a total of 6.5. We are laying juice to the under 6.5 at minus 120, which is crazy to think in a New Jersey Devils game that we're not having to lay the juice to the over. The juice to the over is just like tiny at minus 102. I look at this game, and while I could see it going under that total because the Sharks struggled to score, I don't trust the defense here of the Devils to keep this one under. The Devils team total, if you just want to isolate them, and I actually don't trust the Devils to win either, especially at this price. So I'm kind of all over the place in this one with my thinking. I think the Devils team total over 3.5 has value, but it's minus 138. I can see them getting 4 goals. Mackenzie Blackwood is expected. I think the Sharks team total over 2.5 makes sense. It's minus 102. Nico Dawes hasn't been phenomenal on the season. He's expected. We just saw the Lightning put up 4 goals, and I know the Sharks are nowhere near the Lightning, but I do think Nico Dawes can allow some goals to come in by the San Jose Sharks. This team at home, hungry to get those wins, but this team's absolutely struggled. 9-16-0-2 at home on this season. They have been strong on that puck line. They're under 500, but 13-14 at home on the puck line. And when we look at the New Jersey Devils, they don't instill a lot of confidence on that puck line, 15-12. So about 500, but still not where I want to roll with them. Straight up for those wins, though, 15-10-2. So looking at the odds, you're having to lay almost $3, well, 2.5 on the New Jersey Devils at minus 255. The Sharks are plus 205. So the puck line is where you'd have to bet this one. Plus 1.5 for the San Jose Sharks, if you can stomach it, is minus 120. I don't know if I can stomach the Sharks plus 1.5 versus many teams at all, especially the New Jersey Devils, who we know have that offensive firepower. Laying the 1.5 with the New Jersey Devils, like I said, I can't trust this team. That's coming in at plus 100, and that total of 6.5. I lean to the over before I take the under. I'm going to take the first period over 1.5 goals. It's juicy at minus 132, but then I don't care who scores these goals to start off this game. I do expect those goals to come flying in. Both teams to score would be a nice way to look if you have any faith in the Sharks. Again, this isn't one of my favorite games, but when we look at the Sharks, they have won or covered the puck line in the last 10 meetings versus the New Jersey Devils. So they actually play the Devils tight. They won the last one back in New Jersey 6-3, so they got the win. Like I said, they've won or covered that puck line in the last 10 meetings. I can't lay the puck line here with the Devils. I don't want to touch the Sharks on the puck line either. This team is struggling. I'm going to take the Sharks team total over 2.5. I expect 3 goals. Then if the Devils get 5, well, then if you are brave enough to take them on the puck line, you win. And then the Sharks lose on the puck line. So give me the team total over 2.5. Give me the first period over 1.5 goals that's coming in at -132. We've seen that cash in the last two meetings between these two teams. But you guys, that is everything on the slate for today. Should be a great game, great set of games out there for sure. Yeah, skip the Devils and the Sharks. I agree. Here on Pocket, we go over every single game, and I try to give you everything that I'm liking in all of these games. Most of the times I'm betting a lot of these games unless I just say to you like I am putting these two bets. I am taking the over 1.5. I am going to take the Sharks team total over 2.5 because when I put so much work into capping a game and trying to work out where I would put money if you wanted to bet on it, then I end up putting some money on it because there's nothing worse than going through everything, talking to you guys about it and saying, look, this is where I would put the money, and then not putting my money there and it cashing. So I do bet 99.9% of everything we talk about. If I just tell you, these are the players that I'd look at for those anytime goals. Not always am I betting those, but when I've broken down, the first periods and the team totals, and I'm getting on that. Unless I tell you this is just a stinky game, like the Arizona Coyotes and the Montreal Canadiens. I tell you, we'll see who can break that losing streak. But you guys, all the best in all of your bets. Yeah, the Sharks might win. So if you think the Sharks can win, straight up on that money line, the value. Who can trust the Devils right now? I can't. I really can't trust the Devils. I would do the Sharks plus the 1.5 if you can stomach it. I just don't know how much I can stomach today. We've got so many games out on the ice and they are rested out there. So you guys have a good one. Let's make some freaking money. Join me at 7:25 Eastern on Game Time Decisions with Kevin Walsh tonight. Super excited. That show will be starting up on the weekends as well between 11 and 1 o'clock Eastern. So you guys will have to start catching me on the weekends on Game Time Decisions as well. But that's it for me after that today. So I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. Check out the SportsGrid app. I do have one bet up on the app that you can check out as well in the hockey. And so it's one of my favorite bets of the night. P.S. It's Vancouver Canucks puck line, laying the 1.5 at plus 150. You guys know I always love those plus money bets. So you guys have a good one. We'll see you later. No falling apart. No one fall apart tonight. You guys, thank you so much for being here. We'll see you later. Bye, guys.